Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to take a look at one of the last videos for this cup, but before it goes away, I kinda want to showcase the most toxic team that I kinda wanted to build here. It's actually not even the craziest toxic one, because you're going to have here the Powder Snow variant of Ninetales, because basically every time I would run double charm, which you can definitely do with this team as well. You can use also charm Ninetales if you really want to. I kind of always want to have a little bit of a twist with that, and here our personal variant is going to be interesting. I'm not too sure if it's better than charm. Charm might be a little bit better in some scenarios. We're going to talk about this as well, but it's going to give you some decent matchups in general. MVP for this team, something that I did not really expect, was actually the Granbull. Like Granbull, of course, like as a charm or whatever, is kind of decent, but it was so much better than I expected. Also, just for this video, I built a shadow variant of the Empoleon just because I wanted to have a triple shadow team. So if you enjoy this type of content here, feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you have not already. I feel like it's kinda okay still to showcase a very toxic team towards the end. Maybe you want to use it before the catch cup comes around, but here we're going to be able to just, let them forfeit. Next opponent, a great lead for us. We're going to have here the Carving in the lead as they swap out into the Sableye, getting completely demolished here. I kind of just want to be safe, and so I decided to use a shield here. I was fairly certain it's just going to be a foul play, which he would be able to take, but I wanted to be safe just in case it would be a power gem, because I'm not too familiar with the power gem count. But what we can see here is the opponent swaps back into the Carving, allowing us to go for close combat, and with this we're going to be able to get the shield back anyway, and so they can try to farm me down, but we can go straight into the Empoleon, getting some energy advantage, and no matter what's going to be in the back, nothing will really want to take the charge moves of Empoleon, which is quite nice. And as you can see here, grass type Pokemon is not going to enjoy the drill pack. They're going to let the move go through even, and now we're going to have our Ninetales shoot just, actually I can just farm them down if I want to. Like if I really want to, I would be able to just farm them down. So let's see if we're going to do this. We're going to do exactly this as we have Powder Snow here. It is going to allow us to go for a Weather Ball now against the opponent's Carving, and we can just go for the Weather Ball spam. There's nothing they can do about it, as they can just farm them down now. Next opponent coming up, we're going to have the Superior in the lead. Not really ideal, but I decided to swap out straight away to get out the Carving. That's kind of important, but it's kind of unfortunate that our sales up here of Ninetales is going to run that kind of move. Maybe it would have been also an interesting thing to try out the Charm variant of Ninetales in the back as a closer, and as a sales up the Snarl variant of the Granbull. Could see this definitely working out as well. But yeah, here we're going to be able to at least still get our Empoleon against the Carving. They're going to go for one Moonblast. Everything is of course going to be resisted, but they're very likely going to swap back into their Superior here. We can still go for a Drill Peck. I think it's a CMP tie, and so I might just try to rely on our Pokemon in the back here. Let's see, it's going to be a CMP tie. I'm just going to let the move go through. Maybe we can just charm them down. Let's see what they're going to have in the back. It is going to be the Dugong, and this is going to be sadly a little bit of a tougher matchup for us, as we actually would be able to win this, I think, if we wanted to, but there is no chance that we can get to another charge move afterwards anymore. And so, sadly, this Crunch, of course, is going to get shielded by the opponent because they want more fast move pressure on me, as well as I want to get off the charge move here. But because they are going to be double debuffed now, we're going to not be able to go for the full farm down and still getting to another charge move, because we're just going to be a little bit too low. Anyways, how did this team work for me? Surprisingly well, like honestly surprisingly well. There is a huge issue for this team, which is going to be the Magnezone, which I guess I have like at least 20 times in my comment section now that this team is weak to Magnezone. You're right, there were 2 occasions in I think 13 battles I did with this team where I encountered a Magnezone. You might see the other one I definitely cut out, because I had, like, for the first time ever in Pokemon Go PvP, and I did like 30,000 battles or whatever, I had a bug where I couldn't attack at all. Like, I went into, like, my lead was basically the Empoleon against the Magnezone, which was a bad lead, and I swapped out immediately into the Alolan Ninetales, and everything worked totally fine. There was no lag or anything like this, but Ninetales was just standing there, doing nothing, while the opponent was attacking, and so, yeah, you're not gonna see that battle because it was pointless, because I just forfeited then, because forfeit button was still okay, but I was not able to go for any fast moves, which I kind of wonder if we can still actually flip those Magnezone matchups. Oh, speaking of Magnezone, I actually did not know that this was this battle where we're going to encounter Magnezone, but I guess it is. We're going to see here already, it is actually not the worst, because we're going to have our Charm user here, and Charm does quite a lot of damage, as you're also going to see against the opponent's Mantine. I have to hope they don't get to 2 aerial aces here, but let's find out if they can. We can go for the full farm down, and so in comes the Magnezone again. Crunch is going to be able to crunch them down, as this is going to be able to get the shield from the opponent. We can farm them down, and this is going to be a win. So even against Magnezone, you can actually sometimes win. We had a lot of bad leads, which is unfortunate, I have to say, because like we don't really have an ABB style line. Yes, we kind of have an ABB style line, as you're going to have 2 fairy types in the back, but they do different kind of damage, basically. You're going to have one that's more of ice type damage and one that's more of fairy type damage. And so if you win the lead, you're usually better off, yeah, like you're going to be able to a lot of times just line your right Pokemon against the opponent. So like a lot of times there's a say-so of Annihilate, where you're going to have your Charmer, or like a Gligar, where you're going to have your Polar Snow user. And so I barely won any leads with my Empoleon today, which was kind of sad, but we still came back from a lot of them because we have at least like 2 fairy type Pokemon in the back here. Empoleon is going to be able to farm down the Dugong. I kind of want to swap out immediately because I know that they're going to have a Night Slash stored still on their, what's called until they Annihilate. And so we're going to be able to take this one. It's not going to do too much damage, and they're going to have a Feraligatr in the back. This might be still a matchup that they're hopefully going to be able to farm them down in. Like, they're going to be Shadow, which is quite nice for us, and yeah, we can actually farm them down, and so we can even reach a crunch against the opponent, which is going to force a final shield. I'm just worried at this point that we lose CMP tie with our Empoleon, but we can go for the charge move, as the opponent didn't even go for their own Night Slash, and so we're going to be able to win this game, and we can move on to the next opponent. Empoleon against Annihilate again, and this happened I think like 3 or 4 times I had Annihilate lead, so but we were still able to at least come back from a lot of them, like the last game here as well. Maybe we can come back from this bad lead as well. Kind of unfortunate, of course. Like, my main idea about like having the say-swap of Ninetales is that the opponent would swap out into a different Pokemon, and we can kind of counter them. But in this case, it didn't really work out. They're going to have a Granbull though in the back, which is a Pokemon that is interesting. They decided to use a shield here on a potential Dazzling Beam, which we're not actually at yet, but it's going to be fine. We're going to get some damage onto them, and I make an interesting play. I'm gonna decide to use a shield here, because I would have another Weather Ball, but I also decide to catch the move, which is risky, because I could go straight for the Wild Charge, but it's going to be the Body Slam, and so we can at least get some damage onto the opponent, and they can go for a Wild Charge most likely at this point. Like, I was thinking that they might take one more fast move to get to the Wild Charge, which was not the case, and so we can go into our Charmer, farm them down, and we are 1 shield down, and they're going to have a Steelix in the back, and I was so disappointed, because if this would have been the Dragon Tail variant, I'm fairly certain we had a very good chance of winning this game, but sadly it wasn't. They swap out into the Annihilate, they actually still get another charge move, and so I can farm them down with my Ninetales, but we're way too low. And the opponent gets a boost here as well, which does not really matter, because like 1 charge move of the Steelix is always going to be enough. And I guess unless we would be running Ice Beam or Blizzard or whatever, maybe we would have been able to knock them out, but in Weather Ball it's not going to be enough, and so we can move on to the next opponent. Honestly, like, what can I say? If I said I got hard countered base here most of the time, I was not joking with it. Look at this, another Annihilate in the lead, and again, the opponent does not want to swap out here, which is what it is, I guess. They always go for Night Slash here, but like, I don't know, like, it's for me too risky to no shield in my opinion, but it is what it is. We're gonna see here the opponent's Sableye coming in though, which is quite nice for me, because like this, I can go for 1 Weather Ball, get the shield, I can try to reach another one, which doesn't work, but I get them low, and I can align my Charmer. Issue is, the opponent is still going to be able to barely get to another charge move here by 1 HP. It is so annoying, but Foul Play is going to connect and gonna do quite a lot of damage, and so yeah, we're going to be in a little bit of a tough spot. The opponent swaps out into their final Pokemon, being a Mandibuzz. That's quite interesting. I decided to let the move go through here actually, because I was thinking maybe it's going to be better for me. The opponent swaps out into the Annihilate, and I still have my shield, so maybe it's going to help us out later on, but they actually decide to even go ahead and, yeah, let the move go through, which I was kinda curious about why. Speaking of being curious about why did they let this move go through as well then? Like, I feel like they kinda tried to throw here at this point, as we can just go for a Charm and knock them out and win the game, but I feel like this would have been a game that I should have lost most likely. Honestly, it always is so nice to see a Dragon-type Pokemon, because just our entire team is completely destroying them. Here you saw me getting some energy on my lead, just because like having energy on the Empoleon is always a great thing to have. It is such a good Pokemon, it's like such a good coverage, that it's always kind of great to have like coverage on this Pokemon, having some energy on this Pokemon. So yeah, you're gonna see the opponent going for the Surf, and I was going for a bait first, which they called, and now they decided to go for another charge move, which I decided to go for a shield as well. But because they called my first bait, I didn't want to go for another bait, and so I went up to exactly 100 energy and go for the Dazzling Beam, just to say goodbye to the opponent, as they decided to let the move go through, and so we can align ourselves. Which is still going to be a little bit of a trickier one. Issue is for us now that the opponent's Feraligatr is quite decent against our team, and they decide to use a shield here. And my hope is that they're hopefully going to knock me out straight away, because if they don't and they get energy, my Granbull would have some troubles. But they decide to go for a charge move, and they actually nearly knocked me out straight away with it, which was great. And now we can just use a shield here and hopefully farm them down. It's still not over, but they decide to swap out into the Gaslight anyway. Look at the damage our Shadow Granbull is doing. Shadow Charm is just chunking away and knocking them out. Next opponent. Yeah, that is basically the worst possible Pokemon. Speaking of worst possible Pokemon, look at this Feraligatr. If we swapped into the Granbull, I am fairly certain I would have had a way easier chance of actually still winning this game, but them swapping out in the lead does not really make too much sense. I mean, my fast move is resisted. Like, I don't know, maybe this does make sense, maybe I just don't know. But like, we are in a very tough spot now, and what I'm gonna do here is I decide to use another shield, and this is very risky because the opponent basically can knock out everything with the cherries out there. I decided to go straight for the charge move, which they let go through, which I was hoping that they wouldn't. But it is what it is. I can still go for a Weather Ball, and hopefully now they're going to let the move go through as well, which they do. And so they're going to be very low. I'm forced to go into my Empoleon, but basically this game is over. Unless they're going to have like a Dragon type on the back, I would be fine. It's going to be a Swampert, which is going to be a Pokemon that we chunk away quite a bit. But this triple star team was sadly not really something we could beat. Next opponent, a lovely lead for us. Great lead, so we can want to align ourselves. But in comes an Empoleon. And our only answer for Empoleon is Empoleon. And so, yeah, we're going to have a decent spot here though, because we have one extra energy, or like one extra fast move compared to the opponent, just because I needed to swap out, which is kind of nice for me. But also I decided to use a shield here because I need to keep my Empoleon alive. It is way too important for me. They decide to let the move go through, and I can swap out basically immediately into my save swap of the Ninetales. Because they're swapping out into their Poliwrath, I am in an okay spot. They might expect me to have Psyshock though, and that's why I decided to go for the Weather Ball before they could go for the Scald. And it was the right call. And if this is going to be the Icy Wind, we still survive, and we actually still do survive here, and we can go for another charge move as well, which is going to be able to connect and do some decent damage, not a lot, but some nice damage for sure. And we're just going to wait out the Switch Clock so we can align our Granbull against the opponent. I am going to be forced to use a shield here because the Scald is going to wreck us, but they decided to go for the Icy Wind no matter what. We can align ourselves again with the Empoleon against the opponent's Frostless, but I was hoping I would do more damage against the opponent, which I wasn't. And so we are going to be hoping that we can just farm them all the way down. We can farm them all the way down with our Granbull. Granbull is just chonking away from the opponents here. Best lead possible. Like, honestly, every time I see a Dragon type lead, I am just happy because the entire team beats Dragon type Pokemon. And so let's take a look here at the opponent. They're going to have the Dewgong in the back. I'm gonna decide to use a shield here just because it's my best matchup against the Dewgong, and they decide to go for the Icy Wind bait, which is ballsy because like a Drill Run does not knock us out here. Like, it's gonna be close, but it doesn't knock us out. But it does not really matter, as we can go for the knockout against them. We are shield down, but we know there's one Pokemon that we can just take advantage of. And if they decide to use a shield here, what this tells me is that they're going to be most likely weak to a Fairy type Pokemon in the back as well, and they decide to use a shield. And I'm not going to use a shield because Shadow Charm with shields are always the best that you can go for, but they're actually not even weak to me. It's going to be the Quagsire in the back. But as you're going to see, they decide to go for a shield here, which is kind of great. They're only going to have Awkward Tail plus Stone Edge, which is kind of great. And so we can go into our Empoleon. Empoleon now is going to enjoy the Awkward Tail for sure. but also they're miscounted, so I can go for another charge move, and this is going to be basically it for this game as well. Thanks all for watching, hope you enjoyed the most toxic team here. Definitely a solid team to use right now in the Go Bad League as well, and I'll see you then. Bye bye.